Hey folks, welcome back to another Throat Punch Lunch. Thanks so much for joining us once again. I've got a great lineup of segments here for you this week. Now, as we jump into the convention season, GAMA is starting up next week. That's the beginning of our convention season here at the Dice Tower. And with the conventions comes a little bit of a change in the frequency of how often Throat Punch Lunch comes out. So it's going to get a little bit dodgy here and there as conventions creep into the set schedule that Z and I have for having one blender one week and then Throat Punch Lunch the next and then a blender and so forth and so on. So as conventions set off one or the other shows, it's going to affect the frequency. It won't happen too often, but I just wanted to give you a heads up because, for example, with GAMA coming up, that's actually a blender week. So blender's going to be pushed back a week, which means Throat Punch Lunch gets pushed back another week. So it's going to be actually 3 weeks from today until the next Throat Punch Lunch comes out. That's planned. It's not something that just kind of happened. We just have to do it because of the convention season. So be on the lookout for that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get to all the segments that have been lined up for you this week.
Board game conventions are a great place for gamers to get together to socialize and play some games. But it's also a place where publishers go to promote, demo, and sell some of their games. Well, most industries will have these conventions where companies come together to show off their products to attendees. But are those conventions like board game conventions? Let's compare a board game convention with a conventional convention in this installment of Face Up, Center of the Table. In my real life, I'm an engineering manager with a software medical company. Recently, I went to a convention called HIMSS, which stands for Health Information... Hold on a second. What does HIMSS stand for?
Health Information Management Systems Society.
What she said. This is a convention where medical companies from all around the world get together to show off their products. This year there was about 50,000 people in attendance, so that's kind of a good comparison with Gen Con. With 50,000 people, there must be a really long line at registration. Well, no. But if you've ever been to Gen Con, you know that the pickup line can be long and distinguished. Little tip. Go ahead and pay the extra money to have your Gen Con badge delivered to you. It'll save you a lot of time. Like Gen Con, this convention is hosted in a large convention center. This year it was at Orlando, but in the past it's been in New Orleans, Las Vegas, and Chicago. Hundreds of vendors set up their booths showing off their products. As you can see, a lot of money is put into their booths to really make them stand out. But at Gen Con, publishers go for more of the practical approach. Well, except for Upper Deck. At HIMSS, people are dressed to impress. Most vendors and attendees are wearing business suits in order to look as professional as possible. Meanwhile, dress at Gen Con is for comfort, because you need comfortable shoes and comfortable clothes as you demo and lug around new game boxes. One nice thing at HIMSS is the free stuff they give out at the booths, or what's commonly called as swag. For example, there's pens, bags, phone chargers, mints, grippers, pens, chapstick, pens, toy animals, pens, sanitizer, charger cables, pens, scones, pens, stress balls, water bottles, bottle openers, koozies, bouncy balls, pens, puzzles, pens, coffee, socks, pens, tool set, pens, 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 pens. What? That's what I said. Pen. P-E-N. Not like a pen like you stick on your shirt. That's a pen. This is a pen. Pen, pen. Meanwhile, Gen Con is severely lacking in swag. Granted, there are some publishers that maybe provide some promo cards and such, but most don't have anything. And I'm not asking for a lot. I mean, maybe like a bowl of mints or something. And you would probably appreciate that for some of the people you talk to, and you'd want to be able to chunk a lifesaver in their mouth. After spending hours on your feet all day, you'll probably start feeling a little peckish. Gen Con is known for its food trucks, where the street outside of the convention center is lined with trucks serving all sorts of delicious food. At HIMSS, I headed outside to see what they had to offer, but, well, there was nothing there. So my food search took me back inside, where I found they had small food vendors lined up around the edges of the convention floor. While this wasn't a bad setup, I prefer to go outside and get some fresh air. At Gen Con, it's fun to run into famous people such as publishers, designers, and media personalities. So I was curious if HIMS had any famous people the attendees could see.
Have you seen Stephen Bonacore?
I have not. I actually haven't gone much further than this booth, so.
Have you seen Tom Vassell?
No.
Have you seen Sam Healey?
No.
Have you seen Chaz Marler?
No.
Have you seen Ignacy Trzewiczek?
No.
Let's see, I just made that name
No,
up.
I was like, I don't even know who that is.
In the end, aside from the type of venue and the number of attendees, there wasn't a lot of similarities between HIMS and Gen Con. And I left out the biggest difference. Gen Con is so much fun to get together with friends and family and play some games and see all the new great stuff coming out. Meanwhile, HIMS is boring. But I did get this cool cassette, which is also a USB memory stick. Don't worry, I brought you guys back some swag. Want some pins?
Hi, this is Ambie from Board Game Blitz, and this is Strategically Thematic, a segment where I talk about theme in different strategic games. This time, I'm talking about Millennium Blades. Millennium Blades is a card game that's a simulation of a collectible card game. In the game, there are two phases, a real-time deck building phase and a tournament phase. If you've ever played a collectible card game like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, you know that you tend to spend a whole lot of money buying booster packs trying to get those awesome rare cards to go into your decks, or just to collect them. The great thing about Millennium Blades is that you can still get a bunch of booster packs and rare cards, but you're just paying in-game money, not real money. In the game, you have these stacks of cash that are used to buy everything. In the deck building phase, you can buy booster packs, which are symbolized by face-down cards on the board. Since you really only care about rare cards when you're buying the packs, the game simulates this by the card being either a rare card or an accessory for packs that didn't have any cards you wanted. You can also sell cards back to the store or trade them with other players if you have cards you don't want. There's an aftermarket where you can buy the cards that other people have sold, so if you don't like the uncertainty of buying a booster pack, you can buy specific cards there. All of the buying cards and customizing your deck is done in real time during the deck building phase. You don't take turns buying and trading things in real life, so in the game it's also first come, first served to get the booster packs and cards in the aftermarket. This adds a lot of excitement to the game, since you might have to hurry to grab a card you really need before someone else can take it. In addition to making a deck for the tournament, you can also use some of your cards to make a collection. In collectible card games, a lot of people enjoy just collecting the rare cards or getting the complete sets. You can do this in Millennium Blades. Each round you can trade in a collection of cards to get additional points. The tournament phase is the other way to get points. Everyone brings the deck they've built and uses it in the tournament phase, which is like a mini game within the game. Players take turns playing cards and trying to get the most points, and the cards have nice combos to play with each other or against other players. Something that adds a lot of theme to the tournament phase is the meta cards. In any tournament game, a meta tends to form from all the people playing. Some types of decks tend to get popular, and then you start building your own decks to do well in that specific meta. So in Millennium Blades, the game simulates this by giving you more points for following the meta in the deck you used. But the meta changes in each tournament, so your decks are always evolving. I never got super into collectible card games because I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on trying to get good cards. But I loved the excitement of opening booster packs and putting decks together. Millennium Blades captures that feeling for me without making me actually spend a lot of money. Thanks for watching Strategically Thematic. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below.
Hey folks, welcome back to another Just Missed It. If you didn't catch it last week, I did a top 5 versions of Carcassonne that are just my favorite versions of Carcassonne that I enjoy playing. The base game is fine, but I left that out of consideration along with all of its expansions, and I just decided to focus on the different versions of Carcassonne, like these guys right here, that I really enjoy. I like the variety that it offers the game, and so as you can see, this is where I keep my Carcassonne versions on my shelf, and a couple of them were not on the list. For example, spoilers, Carcassonne Hill and Dale was not there, neither was Gold Rush, and one is actually not on my shelf that was on the list, Carcassonne the City, but Tom owns that one, so I don't have to worry about not playing it. If I want to play it, I just ask to borrow it. So today, I guess I would like to show you why Over Hill and Dale and Gold Rush did not make the cut. So let's get to it. So with Carcassonne Over Hill and Dale, quite frankly, the theme is what turned me off from including it on my top 5 list. As you can see, it's all about gardening and farming, and as a general rule, that theme for me just doesn't cut it. It looks great, don't get me wrong, but it just left me dry. Now with Carcassonne Gold Rush, the theme is what actually pulled me in. Being able to go out and mine gold and all that kind of stuff, that's really cool. But one of the mechanisms, taking over somebody else's mine and stealing their gold, it just really didn't sit well with me. And I know Star Wars Carcassonne has a similar element, but at least with that one you can roll some dice. So those are the reasons why Carcassonne Hill, Over Hill and Dale, and Gold Rush did not make my top 5 versions of Carcassonne list. Now, with all that being said, they're still right here on my shelf, so I still enjoy playing them, just not as much as the other 5 that did make the list. So, they just missed it. We'll see you guys on the flip side.
Hey everyone, this is Tim Jennette the Metal Meeple, and this is the Miniature Breakdown. So in this video, we're going to take a look at Uncharted Seas. This is a miniature war game for pretty much 1 to 2 players. You can play as many as you want, I guess, but you're going to play on a 4-foot by 4-foot table, and you're going to build a fleet of these guys here based on your faction that you choose. And for the most part, it's all going to be ships, although some of them can bring in different units, such as this little flying dragon. And there's also some mythological beasts and stuff that you can bring as well, but we're going to focus on these ships. Anyway, each player is also going to get a deck of cards in which you can play on your turn to do different things, and it tells you with this little handy sheet here when you can play them either at the start of your turn or you can, do them as reactions and stuff like that. There's tons of cards here. I think half the deck is generic, so everybody has those cards, and the other half is specific to the faction that you choose to play. Anyway, all your characters have stat cards. Most of them are in the book, but the ones that you buy outside of the core rulebook come with these as well. And it's going to just show you the stats for the ships and how many points they cost. Again, you do choose a point limit to play and then a scenario and such, and then you start playing it. It also shows you the different, the forward, backwards, left and right, using the actual nautical references here. But if you're shooting straight, you would do your 4, and then you would have this range band, and everything in the game is D6 based. So in this case, if the range band's 8 inches, so if you were 8 inches away from another ship that you want to fire at, you'd be in range band 1, and you're going to roll 6 dice if you're facing forward with this ship here. And what's cool about this game is it's got burstables 6-sided dice, so when you roll, anything that's a 6, you'll roll again. Anything a 1, 2, or 3 is a miss. And so say this was a 6, that would be 1, 2, 3 successes, and you would roll again. For 4, we would keep rolling, and now we've had 5 successes. What you're going to do then is just apply it to the DR of that ship. If it equals or exceeds it, it's going to do 1 hull point. Once a ship suffers all their hull, it is destroyed, obviously. But you can also crit, so if you equal or exceed that number, there's actually a chart that you roll on, 2d6, and all this cool stuff can happen. You can either set the ship on fire, or the best result here where you roll a 2, the ship explodes and everything within 8 inches of it suffers damage. Pretty brutal. Movement's pretty simple. you basically have a specific move on your card, and you have these little templates based on the size of your ship, and you know they're notched for an inch a piece. So if you wanted to turn, it would be like that. Otherwise, you're just going to measure and go straight out. So the game's pretty simple. I picture it more of a casual game. And just to show you some of the ships here, like this is the elf flagship. And then we got some of the orc ships that I've painted up. They're pretty cool. You can do boarding actions, and it's very brutal with the orcs because you have to ram head on to do boarding actions, and that's pretty much the facing of all their ships. And here's some of the humans as well. These ships are pewter and resin, as you can see with this ship that's unpainted. So, pretty neat game. There's a second edition. I think they may have discontinued this. I haven't really kept up with it, but either way, I thought it was pretty fun. Definitely a casual game for me, but if you have any questions, feel free to email me at timjennette@gmail.com or follow me on social media at the link below on the right. And until next time, keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Hey guys, it's Jay, and it's time to talk about your Flair. On 15 Pieces of Flair, I'm going to show you guys a couple ways to spruce up your game room. The other day, my wife sent me out to pick up some aquarium ornaments. Well, I picked up this, and it's way too big for our 1-gallon fish tank. So, I figured I'd turn it into some shelf Flair. Let's check it out. The materials for this Flair are going to be an aquarium skull purchased at Walmart, a hollow faux book purchased on Amazon, and gold paint and a paintbrush. First, I painted a tooth on the skull gold. For excellent instructions on how to paint, check out Battling Brushes here on the Dice Tower, or go check out Rob Oren's self-titled channel. He does an excellent job teaching how to paint. Then you're just going to place the skull on top of the faux book. Some things the hollow book can be used for are holding your favorite dice, pieces of your games that you accidentally don't put away, saved up game money, candy you don't want your wife and kids to know about, where all the socks disappear and the laundry end up, a portal to another dimension. Boom, there you have it, a quick and easy way to add some flair to your game room. If you guys have any requests on ideas or games that you'd like me to make into some flair, just put them in the comments below or shoot me a message on Twitter at @halfhandicapped. Take it easy, guys.
It's Roy Candy from Epic Gaming Night, and this is Roll with the Punches, where we talk about randomness in games and how it can make a game exciting, and how to twist luck into your favor. This week, we're boldly going where no one has gone before in Star Trek Ascendancy.
Star Trek Ascendancy is a Space 4X game where you build the universe as you play through the game in the Star Trek setting. When your ships go into warp, you roll the warp die to see how big the lane will be. Then you place it out and put an unexplored sector into that area. When you draw a new sector, you then draw an exploration tile. This could be anything from a virgin planet that has no effect for the event, or a civilization that you will have to negotiate with or attack to be able to take over the planet, or a crisis card which can have all sorts of nasty effects. Sometimes when you're exploring with your ships in the warp, you can find hazard areas. Whenever your ship enters these, you'll have to roll a die, and if you roll equal to or above the target number, then your fleet will be destroyed. You can still mitigate these hazards if you have upgraded your shields. It's even worse when you then find a crisis when you just barely survived the hazard. In combat, you'll be rolling a dice for each of your ships. You're trying to get the to-hit number on your attack, but you'll subtract your enemy's shields from your roll, so that way you can mitigate combat and spend research tokens to upgrade your weapons and shields for combat. Your luck has all sorts of twists and turns when you boldly go where no one has gone before in Star Trek Ascendancy.
Star Trek Ascendancy is definitely filled with tons of randomness, from the sectors you get to all the crazy different event exploration cards you find. Whether they could be good or bad, you're always up in the air on what you're gonna get. You can always try to make sure you go out and explore with just one ship here and there, so that way you don't send a whole fleet into a crazy nebula that just blows up your entire fleet, which I've seen happen plenty of times, and tons of dice chucking when you go into the different nebulas and different anomalies, and then also in combat. So this game is great with randomness all over the place, and I think it adds to the tension and excitement of the game, but you can definitely see it swing back and forth, and it definitely uses the other players to help mitigate that randomness, where people might not be as hard on the one player that's having bad luck, and then if somebody's having great luck, the players need to team up to take them down. I love 4X games, and this game is a ton of fun, and the Star Trek theme just makes it awesome. So that is Star Trek Ascendancy, and this has been Roll with the Punches, and we'll see you guys next time.
What did you get in this pizza? The ingredients are so weird. Ninja Turtle style! What?
Come on, man, we gotta eat it Ninja Turtle style!
Really weird ingredients, though. Hey, welcome to Throw Punch Lunch. My name is Bobby, and this is We'll Learn As We Go, where I'll be talking about a game and how I would teach it. This week, we're going to be covering Ninja Turtles Shadows of the Past. Let's get down to the table. This game is a one versus all game, and so my advice for games like this is usually the player that knows the game the best can take the role of the villain. That way it cuts the teaching time down to half, and the other players can take advantage of the cooperative nature of the game. Some games are best taught when everything's already set up and ready to go by the time the players sit down. This game is a really appealing visual game, and so I suggest that this game is one of them too. Also, all 4 turtles are required to play, so it's not like players pick some characters and put the rest in the box. So go ahead and set all of them up, and then let the players pick what turtles they want to play. While the components are out, you can point out things briefly like the player dice that the players will use, the player boards as well as the statistics on them, and life points, the terrain cards that will affect movement, and the different tokens they'll use, like focus and KO tokens. Let them know that you'll detail all of these at the end, and also let them know what the victory conditions for the mission are, but reassure them that you will re-emphasize this at the end as well. In my introductory video, you might remember that there are different methods that I use to teach a game. For this game, I would use the different player actions that they could take on their turn. However, before getting to the crux of that, there are 2 things that I would want to cover first. Round structure. Cover quickly that a turtle goes, players can decide who goes first, and then the villain goes, and then the turtle goes, until all 4 turtles have taken their turn. Also quickly describe the mechanic that a player will take their actions based on what dice they roll, but a turtle can also share the dice of their neighboring players. So for example, Donnie here can use his 3 dice, as well as this dice from Mikey, and this dice from Leo. Since you covered the dice, it'll naturally transition into the player actions that you'll take. Now that you've touched on the player dice, you can talk about each icon and what they represent. This is the easiest icon to explain. Explain that when this comes up, they'll be able to choose what side of the dice they want. They'll be able to gain a focus token. Once you explain the focus tokens, you'll be able to explain the special powers that a player has, because by this point they'll have learned everything they need to know about the special powers, including paying with focus tokens, paying with the face of the die, or paying with life, which is represented by pizza in this game. Next, I talk about melee and ranged attacks, because people are interested in knowing how attacks work. You could cover melee and ranged attacks simultaneously, because they're pretty close in how they work. And also you could cover these double dice and talk about how you can't split the dice up, but you can add to enhance the attack. Since you already covered the attacks and how they work, covering the defense dice will be pretty easy. And by this point they'll already understand the battle dice and how the icons on the die actually enhance the number of dice you roll. And so you'll be able to briefly explain the shells as well as explain the damage. At this point you'll also be able to explain that, hey, look, the villain card has defense icons as well. And then you could explain the icons on the side or how the villain takes their turn. Remember, you don't have to cover the villain cards too much in depth because you're going to be playing the villain. Just talk about it so they get the concept. Usually I cover the movement icons last. Not because movement is hard in this game, it's actually relatively simple. But after you cover the movement icon, you can also talk about the terrain cards and how they affect the game. At this point, you're almost ready to play the game. Quickly talk about what happens to KO'd characters and then how to revive them again, because that's usually related to the victory conditions of the game. Talk about what the victory conditions are and emphasize what that means, because now everybody knows the rules. And then enjoy playing Ninja Turtles Shadows of the Past. So that's how I would teach Ninja Turtles Shadows of the Past. Looking forward to seeing you next time on Throw Punch Lunch. My name is Bobby, and this has been We'll Learn As We Go. Bye.
Throat Punchies. I'm Forrest from Bowers Game Corner. I'm back again for 3 reasons where I spotlight a game outside the top 1,000 on Board Game Geek that I still think you might want to check out. And today I'm very excited to check it out In a Bind from Stuff by Bez. This is currently ranked 4,647 on Board Game Geek, but I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you might want to go check this one out. So, first and foremost, this game will take you about a minute, maybe 2 minutes to learn and to teach. It's one of those light, simple party games you can bust out, have it set up, and be ready to go with just a shuffle of the cards, which is always a good thing in that type of situation. Reason number 2 is this is incredibly
incredibly compact game. This is perhaps one of my favorite games that fits inside of a tuck box. But the main reason number 3, and what I've been leading up to with this point, is that this is the ultimate chameleon game. Well, at first glance, this may just seem like a silly party game where you're going to be sticking cards in your armpit and up your nose and behind your ears and all sorts of different things like that. In actuality, this is a fantastic party game. This is a fantastic icebreaker game. This is a fantastic gateway game. I brought this into my preschool classroom and played this with 4- and 5-year-olds. It goes over great as a children's game, as a filler game, as just about every scenario, as a drinking game. In a bind, I don't really think it's ever had a situation where it's gone bad. And best of all, when you are playing with people who've never played any games in our hobby, which I do quite frequently when I go on these youth retreats that I go on, this game goes over like gangbusters because just about everybody can play it. Super easy to learn, super easy to teach. That is In a Bind by Stuff by Bez. One of the most versatile and personally one of my favorite games out there. Definitely one I think you might want to go back and check out. If you enjoyed what I do, please be sure to check out my channel. And now back to more Throat Punchy goodness.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson with Beyond Solitaire, and I'm bringing you another episode of Solo Thrash, Amerithrash gaming for those of us who like to play it alone. In previous weeks, I've focused on small, portable, and relatively inexpensive solo games. But this week, I'm ready to try something a little heavier. Literally. This week we're going to be covering Hoplomachus, the gladiator battle game that you can play in versus mode, co-op mode, or in my favorite mode, solo. Hoplomachus is not a game that you can just pick up in the store. It is made by Chip Theory Games, a small game company lovingly run by 2 cousins who handle the entire production process themselves. Their love for the product really shows in the components. In Hoplomachus, your battleground is a neoprene mat that is basically a giant mouse pad. The gladiators are represented by these well-made poker chips that are actually pretty fun to handle. And their life is actually represented by these lighter red chips that you take away as your life dwindles or as you take life away from your enemies. You also determine how much damage you do or that an enemy does by rolling a certain number of dice. So different colors of dice have higher or lower odds of hitting, depending on how many sides are actually printed with an H for hit. So as you can see, a yellow die is dicier, to work with than a black die, which gives you a much higher chance of scoring a hit against your enemies. For a solo game of Hoplomachus, you choose which ancient city you'd like to represent, and then you take all of the gladiator chips of the related color. So these blue ones are Atlantis. In the original game, your options are El Dorado, Atlantis, and Xanadu, but there's a later expansion that added Rome and Pompeii, and there are further expansions coming up that include Carthage, so I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to a huge Rome versus Carthage throwdown. Your most important gladiator is your champion, so for Atlantis that would be Ferris of Atlantis, who is actually inactive or grayed out for the first part of the game. He actually doesn't do anything until you either earn enough crowd favor through killing enemies and having control of these very choice spots that are also dangerous in the middle of the board, or if an enemy manages to get to him and cause some damage. In the solo version of the game, you'll be playing against these enemy chips, and you can choose an enemy champion like Momora the Giant. But I'm actually particularly fond of the Mulhagen Dragon Lizard, because who doesn't want to kick the butt of a dragon lizard? The enemy pieces move according to AI rules that actually make a lot of sense. So even though there isn't another human that you're playing with when you play by yourself, your enemies move in ways that make a lot of sense and that produce a sufficient strategic challenge each time for you to really enjoy playing, or at least I really, really enjoy it. I love Hoplomachus. It has great components, the rules are easy to pick up. I like that the AI in the game is smart enough to make solo games strategically interesting, and I like experimenting with the different strategies that you can try out when you're playing as different cities. However, I do have one caveat, and that is that Hoplomachus is very expensive. Most of the games that I've recommended so far, you can get for $30 or less. For Hoplomachus, the base game is going to cost you $85. And if you're like me and you decide that you want everything, including all of the expansions, that's a $250 package. So this is the sort of game that unless you're really sure that you love gladiator games that are fought out on hex maps, you might want to watch a few YouTube Let's Plays or do some research into the game before you buy. However, I can honestly say I don't regret it, I love playing it, and I expect that I will for years to come.
What's up, Throw Punchlines? This is Brian Drake with the latest retro, taking a look at another stuff I like, stuff I hate. So, this one's a little bit different. We're not talking about a specific mechanic in a game or anything like that. This one it's a little bit more personal in the sense that stuff I like is when you go to a game store, right? A friendly local game store, and the F should be in the title, a friendly local game store. You walk in, the lighting is great. It's nice looking in there. There's tons of great new non-dusty games in there. You know, you're looking at all kinds of cool stuff. Even if it doesn't have a huge inventory, there's a friendly person who, when you walk in, says, "Hey, how you doing? Can I help you find something?" Or, "Hey, this just came out. Have you heard about this?" And they point you to where games are, and they answer questions in a friendly manner. I love that. We travel for a living. We're always on the road, going different places. So anytime we are in a city, we stop at a game store, and I hit some fantastic ones this past week, or this past couple weeks ago in, oh my goodness, my brain is totally blanking on whatever I was, but whatever state we were in, it was great. I mean, it was really nice. Michigan, we were up in Michigan, and what city were we in? Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. There, Grand Rapids. We flew in near Grand Rapids. A couple great stores in Grand Rapids. Friendly people, really willing to talk and help us out. You know, HeroClix communities, Magic the Gathering communities, all those kind of people, you know, they congregate in there as well. So if you can walk into one where people are playing Magic or they're playing HeroClix and people are still willing to turn around and say, "Hey, how you doing? You know, hey, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah." It's a really cool feeling. I like that feeling of walking into a store and someone being friendly and nice, introducing themselves. Conversely, you know what's coming on things I hate, and that is walking into an unfriendly local game store, a UFLGS. There are too many of these out there. And then you see threads online all the time. "Well, why would you buy that on Amazon? Why would you buy that on Cool Stuff? You should support the local game store." Asmodee will come out and tell you this. You know, you should support the local game store. You know, these online retailers, blah, blah, blah. The problem is some of them don't deserve it. I mean, you don't prop up a business just because they're the local game store if they really are horrible. If you walk in and you kind of get one of these, or nothing, or no one's there to speak, or the lighting is bad, it's not clean, it smells, it's dirty. Why in the world would I want to give a company like that my business just because they're a brick and mortar store? Cool Stuff's a brick and mortar store. They do not pay me to say this. Other places like Miniature Market, they're places who, they have great customer service online. And I'm not bashing the local game store for this, but my goodness, if you want people to buy from you, if you want people to support you, if you want people to continue buying and supporting the friendly local game store, be a friendly, local, clean, nice game store. If you've got people who are not being family friendly, and I'm not saying everyone has to share my same exact values, but if you've got people cussing up a storm, why don't you just kind of curtail that so you get families to get in there? Because guess what? Families will buy their kids games, and if they like a game, especially like a HeroClix, they will buy them another booster pack or another game or another Star Wars Destiny pack, as if there were any of those in stock. But make your game store, if you own a game store or if you go to a game store and you're constantly there, make it welcoming, make it friendly. My goodness, it's not hard to say hello to people, to smile back at people when someone says something to you. Just be friendly. You say, "Brian, I'm an introvert, blah, blah, blah." So am I. I am. I'm on stage for a living, and I have a different kind of job than a lot of people. But when I'm one-on-one with people, I'm very introverted. Very much so. Yet I force myself to be nice to people. I force myself to talk to people. And I'm not patting myself on the back because I have failed miserably at this before, and I don't want to have the other people do that. So, friendly local game store. I hate it when you walk in. It is a not friendly, not clean game store. So that's stuff I like, stuff I hate for the week. Sorry if that's kind of downer, but you know, those are excellent stores out there. McNarb Games in Goshen, Mississippi, I'll throw those out. Those guys are incredible, do a great job. Hope you guys are, go buy stuff from them. They don't pay me to say that, but they're friendly, they're warm, they're wonderful people. So that's the stuff I like, stuff I hate for this week. Brian Drake, latest retro. We'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, it's Mark Zielinski and welcome to Countercharge. Today we're going to talk about a very special game, all right? This is the Tales of Equestria, a storytelling game. This is designed by Alessio Cavatore. You might recognize that name. He designed Kings of War. And this is published by his game company, River Horse Games. So, and before you laugh, I know Chaz Marler and I know Tony from Rolling Dice and Taking Names are very excited about this game coming out. So why don't we go ahead and hit the close cam and check it out. All right, folks, here we go. Tales of Equestria, the storytelling game. This is really a light RPG set in the My Pony universe. Okay, but this was very well received in my house because my 14-year-old daughter, I think, has seen every My Little Pony episode there is. So they are going to have an RPG screen for this. They're going to be putting out extra adventure packs and things like that. And, of course, they suggest you can go ahead and pick up the miniature horses from Hasbro to use in your adventures. As you can see, it's a pretty nice book, nice glossy stock, and they talk about putting your character together. One of the main mechanics in the game are these tokens of friendship. You go ahead and start the game with them, and then you earn them by being self-sacrificing or overcoming one of your quirks, and then you can spend them to have the GM re-roll a die with one friendship token, or all the way up to 3 if you want to fix the roll in your favor. So there's certain ways you can do that. And then, of course, they go over to the different types of ponies. You know, there's ground ponies, unicorns here, and then we have our Pegasi. So very, very neat the way that they have this set up. They've got these Harmony. Harmony really doesn't do anything in the game. It's just something for you. It's kind of like your alignment, I think, basically. And then they talk about the different traits and things that you have. And, of course, what's My Little Pony without friendship? That's right. Tests and challenges make up the real core of the game as well. You're going to go ahead and do die rolls, and this is very similar to D&D 5th edition. There's different difficulties that you use. You're going to roll polyhedral dice. The lowest is a D4, the highest is a D20. All right, and so when you start off as a young pony and you're rolling a D6, you can see the best you can do is defeat a hard if you get all the way up to a 6. All right, but there is a way that the ponies can get together and they can help, and it lowers, for every pony that's helping out, it lowers the difficulty by 1. So it's a very nice mechanic. All the ponies roll their dice and you take the highest die roll. So it's all about doing things like that. Now, when you fight in this game, they're called scuffles, and nobody dies. When you hit 0 stamina, you just kind of get tired and fall asleep or something like that. So it's great for the little kids because the ponies don't get beat up. And then, of course, there's talents. You can pick different talents like healing touch and things like that. And then they've got a bunch of those. And then there's a list of quirks. And then every pony has a quirk. So just to make life a little bit more interesting. And then, of course, you can always level up your characters and things like that. And the game also comes with an adventure to start off with called The Pet Predicament. All right, so that's Tales of Equestria. Now, before I came back, I had a graphic up, and that shows you that River Horse is really going to support this game. They're putting out the GM screen, they're putting out adventures, polyhedral dice, pads of pony character sheets, fantastic. So this is a great game if you want to have the kids get into Dungeons & Dragons or another role-playing game later on in their role-playing careers, or just to spend a fun afternoon, okay? You know, if you've got My Little Pony fans, this would definitely be a hit. Like I said, this came into the house, my daughter grabbed it immediately and started going through it. So go ahead and check it out, The Tales of Equestria.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Thrash-Up. Well, we're back again. Well, as you probably know, we filmed this a little earlier. So, as of March 7, Rising Sun from Cool Mini or Not was coming out, and I don't think it needs any of my help because I can guarantee by the time you see this video, the thing's probably funded already. Why? First of all, Cool Mini or Not, cool minis, great game. Eric Lang. I think that's all I have to say. And it looks like it is going to be a masterpiece. Sam Z, Jason, and myself got to play this at BGG-Con, the prototype, and we had a real blast with it. So I can't wait to see what the finished product is, because I know it's going to get funded, and I know you guys probably already did it. But got to tell you about it anyways. Another project I want to tell you guys about that caught my eye on Kickstarter was a game called Ravage, Dungeon of Plunder. Now, I know what you're thinking, another dungeon crawl? Well, this time you're orcs, and you're down there to get loot and teeth. Now, that's an old term I haven't heard since my Gorka Morka days. Now, this really, really looks cool because you take your band of orcs and you're going in and you're fighting each other to go get different types of loot and stuff like that, and it looks great. It's really something that really caught my eye, and it's by Ian Schofield. I believe it's his first game. I'm not 100% sure on that, but go check it out. Go check this out because it looks beautiful, even in prototype form, so I can imagine what the finished project's going to be. Last but not least is a game from Grimlord Games, and this I think is I can't wait to get my hands on this. I hope this thing funds beyond human belief and everything is unlocked. It is a game called Village Attacks. It is, now get this, a village defense game. Now I know what you're saying, village defense game? The whole premise is that you are in the dungeon as the bad guy, in a castle as a bad guy, and you control that castle. Well, the villagers had enough of you and they want to drive you out. So they hire heroes, the villagers are coming, and the whole point of it is that you are supposed to try to drive these guys and kill as many villagers and lower the morale until they say, hey, we've had enough and let's get out of here. Beautiful minis from what I saw so far, and I'm really hoping that this gets funded. Go check it out at Kickstarter. I think you guys are going to love this one. So let's recap real quickly. Rising Sun, cool mini or not, check it out on Kickstarter. Don't forget to check out Ravage, Dungeon of Plunder, Orcs, how can you go wrong? Kickstarter. And finally, from Grimlord Games on Kickstarter, Village Attacks. Check it out. You can look these up in the search engine on Kickstarter and they will pop right up. They've got plenty of time for you guys to jump in there. Go get them, because I think they're all going to be great, and I can't wait to get my hands on them. Until next time, I'm Rob Oren, and we'll see you next time on the Thrash-Up.
So that's it for Throat Punch Lunch. Into the Breach. It's exciting to be able to get into the convention season once again. I know I'm going to be seeing a lot of faces and a lot of people that I met last year. And if I don't remember your name, please forgive me. I'm not good with names at all. But I'm good with faces, so I'll probably recognize you, but I won't remember your name. That's going to happen. I just know it. So please don't be offended. I hope to see a whole bunch of you again this year. That's one of the coolest things about this job is being able to meet you guys. So without further ado, let's get on out of here, and we'll see you guys on the flip side, which is going to be in about 3 weeks.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Want some pins?